Hello and welcome to this Phil But Flies review of Aerosoft's Cologne Bonn Airport add-on for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me here on approach to runway 32 right, and I'm starting with an approach as ever to give you a little feel for the performance of the scenery on my system, which is an i7-8700K processor with 32GB of RAM and a 1080 Ti graphics card, and also to give you a little look at the surrounding area. I'll let you watch the rest of this approach and the landing, and I will speak to you again at a gate when we'll have a good look around the airport in different weather and lighting conditions, and I'll finish up by giving you my opinion on it. Speak to you shortly.
Hundred above. 200. 100. 50, 40, 30, 20. Retard. Drive.
So here we are, welcome to Cologne Bonn. We're parked up at gate B18 and we'll just watch the jetway connect and then we'll have a look around the airport. So this is a custom jetway, which we have had problems with in the past. But as you'll see shortly, this one docks absolutely perfectly, which is great to see. I think Asobo have updated the SDK to allow custom jetways to work properly, because we've seen this a few times now. Let's take a look at the jetway to start off with. So you've got some very nice crisp textures, very nice advertising hoardings, which look great. The jetways all connect to the terminal building, which is nice. And let's start looking at some of the textures on the building itself. So they're quite nicely done. I really like these rust marks on the concrete here. The concrete isn't of the highest resolution. If you get close, you'll see it gets a little bit blurry. But for me, it's good enough. Certainly when taxiing in, I didn't notice any problem with it at all. And we have a fully modelled terminal interior, which is becoming more and more common. I know it's a bit of a contentious issue, but I happen to quite like it if it's done well. Which this one certainly is. Good level of detail. I really like the textured ceiling, another sort of brutalist looking terminal interior, with everything you'd expect to see, from seating areas to staircases, and the windows can be looked out of as well as looked in through without any of the window frames disappearing, so that's nice. And again, the textures in here, not quite as high resolution as the ones outside, but why would they be? This is perfectly acceptable for an interior as far as I'm concerned. So this is one of two rotundas at this particular terminal. And it's quite an interesting design. It's got a sort of star shape with these lounges protruding. Let's jump back out through this window here. And you'll see that the window panes are in fact reflective as well as being transparent, which is nice. Now this part of the terminal doesn't have a fully modelled interior throughout, but they have used this parallax effect, which we've seen on certain other sceneries, I can't remember which off the top of my head, to give the impression of an interior. And they've done it rather nicely. If you go inside, it disappears. But this, for me, is a happy medium between having flat textures and having a fully modelled interior, which may or may not affect performance. Again, we've got some really nice textures on this building. They don't bear super close inspection like this, but whenever you're taxiing around the airport, you're not going to notice anything wrong with them at all. And again, the detail with these markings really brings the airport to life. I like it a lot so far. There's a good level of detail on the roofs as well, and moving over to the landside area, you'll notice they've really gone to town with this as well. So we've got an excellently modelled car park, including this giant advertising feature in the middle of the ramp, and the outside of the terminal looks pretty spectacular too. The textures used on the roadways, both up here and at ground level, are nice and crisp. We don't have any blurry default satellite imagery anywhere to be seen. And they've even gone to the trouble of modelling the railway station down here. Moving over to Terminal 2, you'll notice that this is an impressive glass structure, and it looks fantastic. Look at the detail in that roof up here. Really nice to see. And it's no less impressive on the inside. Huge level of detail in this terminal interior, from signage to check-in desks to these barriers down here. And it all looks absolutely great. They've even gone to the trouble of modelling these handrails, which a lot of developers don't bother with, and if you do like looking inside terminals, it gets a bit scary. If we move beyond security to the departure area, this looks really good as well. And look, you've even got passengers seated on these chairs here. Really exceptional work. Anyway, moving back out to where it really matters, the apron. Unsurprisingly, it looks just as good from this side. Let's take a look at some of the ground textures. So these are pretty crisp. The lines are perhaps a little bit blurry if you get up super close, but when seen from a cockpit, or even from a tall person's height, or maybe a tall vehicle's height, they look pretty good. Got little spills like that dotted around the place. And the centre lines are nicely faded, they don't look bright and cartoony. So these ground textures are perhaps not quite as sharp as some of the best we've seen, but they do the job pretty well, and they certainly create the atmosphere of an airport, if you ask me. The grassy areas look nice. Not super sharp if you get close to the edges where we don't have any actual 3D grass, but good enough, good enough. Certainly not something you would notice in taxiing in. And the taxiway signage is great as well. The runway textures are brilliant as well. You've got rubber marks, you've even got the grooves in the asphalt visible. Unfortunately, in the Google satellite image, this runway is being resurfaced, so I can't tell you how true to life it is, but it certainly looks pretty good to me. And the cross runway looks really good as well. If I was going to be really nitpicky, I would point out the fact that these tyre marks don't line up with these tyre marks, so there's a bit of a strange transition there. But I'm not going to be really nitpicky. I'm going to say it's nice to see that they've used the correct different materials at the two ends of this runway. And they've done the same here. Although I'm pleased to say that the tyre marks do line up here, which is nice. To the north of the runway 06 threshold we have this military apron, which is also very nicely done. No corners cut over here. Just beyond the military apron we have apron uniform, which is a GA area. And they've done a really nice job here as well. I mean, look at that for attention to detail. The cargo area at this airport is absolutely vast. Not only are the terminals really well modelled and beautifully textured, but we also have a huge amount of clutter which does a great job of recreating the atmosphere of a working cargo ramp. We even have a control tower with a modelled interior, for those of you who like that sort of thing. Excellent views all across the airport, which is just as well, really. And the night lighting is absolutely superb. This is the exterior of Terminal 1, and you'll see that it's lit by these floodlights in the perfect shade of orange, having compared it with some real-life night photos. And we've got a fully lit terminal interior as well, which looks great from both inside and out. The landside entrance to Terminal 1 looks great. And Terminal 2 looks absolutely phenomenal, both from the landside area, inside, and from the airside. And the cargo terminals and the cargo apron are also beautifully lit. They've done a pretty good job of lighting up the military and the GA aprons as well. Really impressive stuff. The taxiways are well lit with centerline lighting and edge lighting where appropriate. And all of the runways look spectacular by night as well. The airport looks really good in the rain with the default reflections. They work very well with these ground textures. We do have a bit of popping of the transparent windows when you compare them with the non-transparent parts of the airport. They do stick out, but as I've said before, there's not a lot any developer can do about that at the moment. It's an issue with the base sim. The way snow has been implemented at this airport is very good indeed. We don't just have a uniform blanket of snow, we've actually got some unevenness in the depth. We've got clear patches, we've got patches where it's thicker, and indeed on these roadways here it's just a light smattering of snow. So it looks great, it looks very plausible, and it's very atmospheric. You'll also notice that the taxiway centre lines and some of the other markings do actually have snow on top of them, which is quite rare. It's often to see them sticking out and looking quite unnatural in snowy conditions at other airports. The taxiways have a thick covering of snow, whereas the runways have none. Now that to me is plausible. I think you would clear the runway before worrying about the taxiways. And we do have these issues with certain textures not being able to have snow on top of them, and that seems to be true for all scenery, so I don't think there's anything the developer could have done about that. But overall it's a really great job. So what do I think of this airport? Honestly, it's fantastic. The level of detail that has been included, from the rust stains here on the exterior of Terminal 1 and the beautiful glasswork both landside and airside on Terminal 2, to the superb terminal interiors and the clutter around the cargo terminal, makes this an incredibly lifelike and atmospheric airport. The ground textures, while not the sharpest, are detailed and varied. The night lighting both inside and out is incredibly realistic, and the airport looks great in all weather conditions. 2 thumbs up from me, I wholeheartedly recommend it. I hope you've enjoyed this video and that you're finding my reviews useful. If so, not only can you like the video and subscribe to my channel, but if you choose to, you can now also buy me a coffee to help support future reviews like this one via buymeacoffee.com/filbertflies. There's a link down below. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Filbert Flies. Take care. Bye bye.